whenever your parents have arguments over the most smallest of things, your dad might be overreacting over there being too much random stuff in the fridge. He's going up and down, panicking. And it's sad because when your own dad comes into the house, you have like a wave of anxiety, like, oh sugar, what should I say, what should I not say? And it's sad, man, because you see all these other English people, it seems like they can say anything to their dad, almost as if like they're friends. And you've never had that relationship, you know? You try to make conversation, you try to talk about what you did, and it either turns into a life lecture or it turns into like, oh, why would you do it like that? That's not even good. And unfortunately, this is a common issue for a lot of us South Asians, Africans, and of course if you're English, which I know some of you are, it could also be the case for you. This little wave of anxiety whenever the person that you love the most after your mother is like causing just unnecessary tension in your mind. And you might even blame them for certain things in your life, for example, why you're not where you want to be, because they might have put you down when you were younger. And it's a tough pill to swallow, but if we can really extrapolate our dad's lives out, you would see a whirlwind of hardships. You would see a plethora of pain. You would see a person that is a lot more complex and multidimensional than you might think. You might just know your father as the guy that perhaps provides, the guy that causes arguments, the guy that doesn't approve of anything, the guy that causes arguments for no reason. And you might have that perception of your father, but really and truly, in the back of his mind, he might not show it to you, but he wants you to be successful. He wants you to be someone that is built different, someone that is a greater version of him. And although many times he might do stuff that might prove the contrary, it might be like, yo, why is this guy sabotaging me, right? Why does he cause this unnecessary pain for no reason? But look, it will take us probably hundreds of years to even figure out 10% of why our parents are the way they are. And me on my journey to get into 10% body fat, me on my previous life journeys where I was more emotional and more irrational and more quick in a bad way, quick to negativity, quick to going down a downward spiral. I would allow my family, my dad, their comments, I would allow them to affect me in a lot of ways. And let's say, for example, my dad, I was telling him about a business idea a few years ago, and he was like, nah, why are you doing that? Just stick to just doing a normal 9-to-5 job, or like not even 9-to-5 job. He literally said, stick to working at Morrison's, right? I remember this stuff. Just stick to it, just carry on working there. And then he would put me down in terms of business things, because I've done some business things when I was younger. I made some terrible decisions, or maybe even a bit stupid decisions, and unfortunately my dad will use those against me to reinforce, no, this isn't, maybe you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do this. And little did I know that my dad had a ton of business issues in his life. Well, actually I did know, because he used to own a restaurant and I used to work there. But he had a ton of business issues. I think a large chunk of his life stresses, his life's trauma, came from big business problems, getting sucked out of lots of money. I'm talking hundreds of thousands of pounds, and that takes its toll mentally on such an individual. My dad didn't have the luxury of growing up knowing about paradigms, knowing about belief systems. For him, life happened, and that's what made him him, right? And of course, I know he's been through a lot when it comes to business issues, and I know he doesn't want me to have the same stresses in life. And all I saw that when I was younger is, oh my days, my dad thinks less of me. He thinks of me as a guy that can't achieve this, that can't do this. And you know, no matter what you say, if you carry on hearing a voice in the real world, that voice eventually transports itself to your subconscious, and those same voices actually control the way that you think about yourself. But I'm trying to understand that these voices, they're not part of me. They are an external thing that happens from someone else's life's decisions. Me and you, we should listen to these voices and realize they are nothing but a fragment of minuscule clips that we had during our lives, and we're letting them dictate the very future that we create with Allah's permission. So coming back to my father, coming back to this generational trauma, and I know for a fact, I'm sure my dada, my grandfather, was probably much worse. But I've decided I'm not gonna let this affect me anymore. Before, I used to hear the rattling of the keys, of my dad's keys on the doorbell, quite distinctive, because he has a lot of keys on his keyring, and you could just tell. And I'd get a wave of anxiousness. I don't know why, because in my head is like, is another argument looming around the corner with my mum? Is another, you know, backhanded comment looming around? And is another lecture looming around the corner? But really and truly, I don't need to let that voice dictate who I am and who I'm becoming. The voice that really, truly, sincerely matters is the voice of my future goals. The path that Allah has blessed, the path that Allah has given to us through the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. That's the path in which we need to follow. And when it comes to business, the manners, the mindset of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, the best man to walk this earth, the best example to ever exist and to ever will exist, that's the kind of alignment that we need to be aligned with. Those are his voice, the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, his voice, the voice of Allah, figuratively speaking, of course, whatever bestows His Majesty, that's the voice that we need to listen to. And do you think Allah is saying to you, oh, you can't do this, you can't do this, you're not capable to do this, oh no, just work at Morrison's, just work at McDonald's, just be an Uber driver? Allah has the capacity to change everything in your life. He could literally turn you blue, He could turn you yellow, red, if He so wills. And if He wants to give you the capacity to reach 10% body fat, to make online income, to make hijrah, that is nothing to Allah. And as a Muslim, we should strive for excellence. We should never allow these voices, these people in our life who are not close to our goals, both spiritually, financially, mentally, to dictate our emotional well-being. We need to be able to take ourselves into the third person, read the situation, align it with your ultimate goals, your goals of getting to 10%, your goals to making online income, making your own business. These are the shallow goals. And of course, we got the deeper, more meaningful goals of attaining the highest ranks of Jannatul Firdaus, right? That is the goals that we need. So if we have such lofty aspirations, and I'm not saying 10k a month, I'm not saying getting to 10% even is that lofty, but it is a stepping stone to get into the ultimate goal set by Allah. And really, if we just want to look back at our lives and be proud of the things that we done, the things that we tried to do with our best effort, without blaming anyone, without blaming any person, I'm pretty sure that is gonna lead to success. And this waves of anxiety that you're getting from your family members or anything, remember, your family members are complex. They have their own deep traumas, much more than you know. There's some things that you will never find out about your family. There's some things that are so deep and so painful to them that's changed the way they are, but you will never know it. Only Allah knows those things. So give them the benefit of the doubt. You understand that they are not conscious of why they are like that, and they weren't given the blessing to be able to become more conscious of why they are the way they are. So don't let their voices disrupt what you want to do with your life. You need to use the divine presence of Allah always being there, and the fact that Allah has blessed you with divine revelation, the fact that Allah has blessed you with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the best of all examples. It's clear cut. The path to success has been paved and it's so visible to us, but we let that path be distorted. We let it be completely jumbled up by the lens in which we look at it, and that lens is often affected by the people that are around you. So really take a deep step back, really look at the people that are perhaps putting you down, and understand they are complex creatures just like yourself, and understand that they've got a whirlwind of trauma, really and truly, that you will never understand. And always align with your goal. Ask your goal what it would want. If my goal is to make 10% body fat, if my goal encounters a situation in which my father is getting angry that I'm not eating 1,000-calorie foods, my goal is going to be like, look, be respectful to your father, but do not eat the food. The time will pass anyways. Do not eat the food. Get to your goals, and little did you know, your father will respect you 100 times more, even if it happens over a elapsement of time. Once you become that individual, which is undeniable, your father, your parents, whomever perhaps might be holding you back in some capacity, even mentally, they will respect you. right? And as long as you don't go against Allah and the Prophet of Allah, Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, then just know you're gonna be in a good place, inshallah. And remember, be intentional with the way you move in life. Make sure you're always moving by intention.